Now remember, make sure you turn the gas on, make sure it stays lit, put the mince on, and as with the nachos, we need to end up let it cook off. So in a few minutes we'll come back to this. So apart from the mince, which is roughly around about 1.4 kilos of mince, I also have minced garlic, Italian herbs, parsley, onion, passato. I don't really know what passato is, but it's a tomato, Italian tomato type sauce, nice and easy. Diced tomatoes, and then my secret little recipe that is a balsamic vinegar. You can also use red wine. The stronger the flavour of the red wine, the better, as in something like a Cabernet Sauvignon is absolutely fantastic for it. Merlot will work, but the balsamic gives a little bit of a kick to it. Okay, so with wine, if you do add wine to it, just remember to cook it really well so as you can burn the alcohol out of the wine. Otherwise it will be a very intoxicating meal. The other aspect, as you can see, I'm browning this mince off. There is plenty of oil and other chemicals in this, which seems to be the way with meat these days. And if you're wondering what I'm actually making, I think I forgot to tell you, this is my bolognaise recipe. So this is how I make bolognese. For those purists out there, yes, I know I'm not going to take 5 hours to actually produce a bolognese. This is for people who want to cook food that's edible, that tastes yummy, and don't have an awful lot of time on their hands. So, as I said, there's always so much oil that comes out of these mince packs. This one probably around about another 150 to 200 mil. So out of a 2 kilo pack of mince, you're going to have at least 300 grams is just juices wasted. So just be aware of that when cooking. You're paying for water and you're paying for additives. So the tomato goes in first. The crushed tomato, diced tomato, whatever you want to call it. Don't really make any difference which one you actually call it, as long as it does the job. So far it looks very similar to the nacho recipe, yeah? But whereas the nachos, we want to end up have that dry, you might notice that there's a lot more oil in this meat that I've left in this time. That's because we actually want this to be a wet recipe, so we want to make sure that there is plenty of fluid in there. So that means that we'll also use additional tomato. Beautiful stuff. And we'll mix that through a little bit. As you can see, really rich red sauce, yeah? So this gives that classic tomato flavouring to the bolognese without having to spend hours with fresh tomatoes and sugar and all the rest of it trying to get it to taste nice. So this, if you wanted a really boring bolognese, is as far as you need to go. Meat's cooked, tomato will end up be cooked in a few seconds, but if you want flavour, you got to throw in roughly about a dessert spoon worth of garlic. And that garlic helps to sweeten it up and give a little bit of a punch to the sauce. As always, you can't do any cooking without a generous sprinkling of onion in there. Parsley. Always put your herbs into the cap so as you don't actually overherb the food, but roughly around about a quarter of a cap. And then the mixed herbs, we want that to be fairly generous, so that's roughly about a half cap. Now we stir this through just to make sure that all the flavours start to mix up. Herbs, especially when you're using dried out herbs, take a little bit of time for them to release their flavours. So don't try it straight away and think, oh, this needs more. Sometimes you just got to let it sit for a little while. So this one here, the reason why I'm cooking it now is I'll now let it sit while the spaghetti bubbles away and cooks. Now that may only be a 20-minute time frame, but it's long enough for the flavours to start to expand. Now I'm just give me 2 secs. As I said, just a little bit of balsamic, so that's roughly about a cap full of balsamic vinegar in there. Mix that through. Turn the heat down to low. Now, red wine makes this look very, very dark. Too much balsamic will also make it look very, very dark, but this, as it is pretty good. Now, always try your food. At present, that's very strong on the balsamic. Now, that will settle a fair bit as it cooks, but what I do need is a little bit of salt. So, a little bit of salt in this particular situation is probably about a quarter of a teaspoon. You don't want to get too carried away because too much salt will kill the meal and kill you. So somebody found out recently when they were cooking popcorn and they unfortunately tipped too much salt into their popcorn, and then it was not quite as nice as they thought. So we cook, we add stuff, we try stuff. Oh, you should try this.